I got props today. I feel like I'm in a high school. This is a big Jesus club for me. Actually, put these on the ground. I was sitting there this morning. What up, Brandon? Good to see you, man. I was sitting there this morning, and I had this thought that crossed my mind. You know, how many of you have ever been to a church on Sunday? You're my Chick-fil-A? All right. Some of you, if you don't know what that is, you definitely need to get in tune with what's going on. Kanye got saved if you didn't know. But growing up in the last 12 years of being a Christian, I feel like the culture that we've built within church, right? When you think of like church and Sunday and weekends, is we've really limited church to something that we attend versus something that we become and we are. Anyone with me? And this is why in this generation there is both a have you ever noticed a lot of churches now are really pushing and emphasizing the power of the local church? But you're also seeing that the generation of what used to attract them in the past, kind of youth group days, I think maybe tail end 90s, early 2000s, 2008, at least around that time frame. It was like you get kids to youth group through Guitar Hero, you drink Monsters through a sock, it was all the cool games you can possibly think of to attract youth. And we're just in a very different culture. And when I was sitting there, I was thinking, man, how much of my own life have I developed to where we put up this facade sometimes of what we think how we think people ought to see us. Are you tracking with me, or want me to elaborate a little bit? I'll elaborate a little bit. This morning, we'll just take my family this morning, okay? I feel like we're pretty open books here. My family this morning, there are moments. It seems like every time me and my wife bump heads again, she says we don't fight. She says we have intense fellowship. Same thing, okay? It seems like all of our intense fellowship always happens before I speak. Has that ever happened to you? Like you got to go and minister somewhere. You got to go communicate. And it's almost like, could we not have held that? And it wasn't even anything bad. It was just like something super. It was the dog. I feel like this dog has brought up so much of in our marriage. I'm like this, the Lord's like, I'm going to send you a hook. It's called fire. It's the name of the dog. It's like this dog has revealed more this dog has really been refining fire to my life. I have gone to Jesus this last week more than I have in a while. I'm like, man, I thought it was hard with kids. I'm like, this is a dog. Like, it feels like it's harder, But I felt like this morning, just this freedom that I wanted to kind of let loose in the room. Like, we're not this perfect couple that makes no mistakes, and we're coming here to share God's word with you because we're perfect. I just want you to know that if you in any way think that of us, please leave. You will greatly be disappointed as time goes by. We are very normal people. I get frustrated like the next guy. We have moments of disagreement. We're not standing here because we've perfected the Bible, but because we're following the one that is perfect. And we're choosing to not relent in our pursuit of God, regardless of what we currently see. There are moments, I'll be honest with you, leading Mondays, there are moments where I come in on a Monday and I feel the spiritual atmosphere is hot. Like, people are excited, people want to worship. And then there's moments you come in and you can feel the apathy. There's moments you come in and, bro, join my wife here on this comfortable couch. Come on. There are moments I come in and I could feel the bad weekend you had. I could feel the disbelief. It's interesting because as a leader, you have to almost learn how to smile in the midst of what you're feeling, and it's not being fake. I love what Furtick says. It's not being fake, it's being faithful. And the reason why even this morning, there's nothing in the fabric of my body that wanted to jump and shout and praise, because my biggest battle a lot of times is here. And I was preparing a word last night, this morning, and last week, I literally heard this phrase, no fast fruit. I heard this phrase, no fast fruit. Now, I don't eat any of these here. Some of you do, but I don't. How many of you at least have had McDonald's once in your life? Come on, raise your hand. Once. How many of you have never had a McDonald's, a burger, or anything from McDonald's at all in your life? You are heroes. Come on. Okay, guys, no, let's do that again. Come on, let's give it up for her. She's never had McDonald's. You did not drink the Kool-Aid. Come on. How about some good old KFC? Where's Chris at? Come on, Chris. Come on, Ben. I know you've had some KFC in your life. They stood up. They're like, yeah. How many like KFC? Okay, how many like Popeyes over KFC? How many like home-cooked fried chicken over any of these? Okay. Now, I got to admit, if I had to choose, if I was just going to let my life go down the drain with my health and backslide in my health, my go-to would be Carl's Jr., okay? Bacon Western cheeseburger. Y'all remember the $6 burgers that weren't $6? Y'all remember those? Some of you don't remember those back in the day? Like guacamole burger. There was these massive burgers, right? How many of you know that fast food over time is very bad for you? There was a documentary that came out when I was younger, and it did not really make anyone stop eating McDonald's. It made them kind of go to McDonald's, called Super Size Me. You remember that documentary? The guy ate McDonald's for 1 month straight. His health began to decline. He got really fat. And you would think that the consequences of seeing what fast food does to another person would cause everyone in America to give up Mickey D's. But the reality of it is that just because you see the consequences of fast food on someone else's life doesn't mean it's going to make you stop eating it. We understand the concept of fast food, but do you understand the concept of fast fruit? See, these are two of the same apples. The difference is one is filled with GMOs and fake stuff, and the other one has actually taken time to develop. And although you may look at this fruit and you may think this is way smaller, I'm going to go for this. How many of you are the hometown buffet type people? You're like, it's the more for my money type of people. You are those. Come on, raise your hand. You can care less about the quality, it's the quantity. Honey, I don't care what this is going to do in the long run, cancer, whatever. We are getting a more for our buck. You have those people, right? Now, you may look at this apple and think you're actually getting more, but if you were to break down the nutrients in this apple versus this one would far outweigh this one. When you look at our lives, you think, just because someone looks like they have everything together on the outside, they look like they're more mature, they look like they know more, you can't just go by what you see. I was thinking this, no fast fruit. No fast fruit. We can't have that in today's culture. I'm looking at my team, right? Our team is going through the 2020 has been an interesting year for One Voice student missions. I'm not just talking about our Monday mornings, but as a missionary organization, we've hit 10 years. And there's a book called Good to Great, and this book talks about that when companies, organizations hit 10 years, two things happen. They plateau or they excel. And that solely is dependent upon the ones that are really caring. And we're kind of at this interesting mark now because when I look at like the last 10 years, everything I've always wanted to do, I've been able to do. All the cool stadium events I've wanted to go to, I've been to them. All the famous speakers that I've admired on YouTube, I've met most of them. Maybe the only one I really dying to meet is T.D. Jakes, but I'd probably fangirl over him in a heartbeat. Everyone else I've been able to be a part of and meet, and we're friends in some capacity. You know, the high schools being reached, the music dream of, man, could we release music? I mean, you hear the band, all this stuff, like the dream of having a bass, all these things God's done. And I'm realizing that 10 years, we've hit 10 years, and we're kind of at this place now where I'm evaluating the last 10 years, not of our ministry success, but what has actually been the fruit of our lives. Because there's a difference. Anyone could have success in ministry if you have the right marketing today. If you know how to market, you know how to design, and you know how to trumpet something, anyone can gather anybody. That's like the days of like just big gatherings, it's kind of not impressive anymore because you can pay to do that, right? But I'm looking at our lives and I'm thinking, man, our generation we're so in a rush to get fruit that we actually will do whatever it takes to look like this because this seems unsuccessful. This seems unsuccessful. I'm going to be honest with you. There's been moments in my life where there's been moments in One Voice where our team has grown. There's been moments where our team has shrunk. And in the shrinking or the pruning moments is always when I begin to question have I missed God? Right? There's been moments, if you've been with me long enough, where our clubs are massive. We got all these people that are gathering, and there's hundreds of kids. And then there's moments where the club kind of maybe dwindles a little bit. You know, maybe it went from like 400 to 300, which 300 you're still like, that's amazing. No, but I'm depressed at 300. You know, like there's moments where I've looked at the fruit of my life and says, man, I sure as heck like this, even though I know it's full of stuff that necessarily isn't good for me, because this looks successful. When you come to a tree and you see apples like this, you're thinking, man, that is a good tree. But we can't just go by what's on the outside anymore. Fast fruit is not going to cut it in today's culture. It's not. Imagine if fast food is bad for you. Imagine what fast fruit does for you. The areas of corners that we cut. We're all guilty of it, everyone in this room, right? Maybe you're not, then you could ascend to heaven when we're done. But we're all guilty in some capacity of desiring what looks better. And check this out. God is not after fast-growing fruit, but fruit that remains, right? And remains in the Greek is stay abides, right? That's what it means. You stay and abide. Now, coming from a divorced home, remaining is not a word that I've even fully understood growing up. I came from a home where, when you think of what the Bible says, when a man and woman come together, they're to be fruitful and multiply. If you've never had that talk with your parents, go have them talk with your parents of what multiply means, okay? Tim, come on. I want you to understand this, right? The multiplication stems from the remaining. When you stay together, you multiply. This is why when I look at my parents' marriage, they quit and got divorced they got divorced long before they can truly see the fruit of their marriage. They gave up on it. They didn't have Jesus, but they gave up on the marriage. There's all these things, all these problems, all these issues. There's real issues in my parents' marriage, right? I'm not saying that it was a healthy relationship, but it was very unhealthy, very dysfunctional. A lot of abuse, a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of physical abuse. I'm not saying for you to stay in that situation. What I'm saying is, as a kid, there was no way that I fully understood this concept of remaining, because the one unit that was supposed to be a safe place to watch me see what remaining looked like was destroyed at the age of 10 years old. So the only thing I knew at the age of 10 was that everything good comes to an end. And then to top it off, my mother had the greatest advice she would give me. She would say, expect the worst, hope for the best. She prepped my heart to always kind of lean back instead of lean in. She kind of braced me for the impact that life would give me, right? Now check this out. In today's generation and culture, 50%, you might already know this, 50% of marriages end in divorce. And this is why we're in a generation that doesn't bear fruit of marriage. We have people that live with each other, but they won't get married. The concept of commitment, of contracts, terrifies this generation. That's why most companies are trying to move to deals they can make with you that don't involve contracts, because contracts scare this generation. The fact that when I commit to something, I actually have to fulfill it. If not, there's a penalty. Back in the day, if you broke a phone contract, you had to pay a fee. I don't know if you all knew that. And you couldn't just call up the manager and complain, say, I'm offended at your fee. Okay, we remove it. Like, it didn't work like that. Right? We're so scared of this commitment. And the first picture that we grow up with is our family. And I realize this is so interesting, that God develops fruit not in the convenience of the soil you think he needs to develop it in. Check this out. When God develops something in you, he doesn't do it in minutes, he does it in years. If you think God developed something in you that took him minutes, it's probably not God. We're going to get to the Bible in a minute. He doesn't develop stuff in minutes. It takes him years. He takes his time, right? How many of you have ever been to a place where there's like gardening stuff, or Orchard Supply? I don't know if this is still around. Is Orchard Supply still around? Like, you've been to these places where there's these trees, and you walk into these places and you see all these trees that are planted and all these fruits, and what you get to see is something that has grown, probably taken a year, 2 years, but you're able to purchase it as it's grown. That's not how you deal with the things of God. You can't buy anointing. Anointing is something that God develops with the pressures of life and time. And so if you want fruit, here's the crazy thing. If you want fruit that remains, then you have to remain to get fruit. It's like credit. How many of you hate credit? I know, you don't have to tell me. I know who you are in this room, because I've seen your credit scores. How many of you know that it takes credit to build credit? It doesn't make any sense. Hey, can I get a credit card? I want to build my credit. Do you have credit? No, then you can't get it. It doesn't make any sense. In order to have fruit that remains, you have to remain to have fruit. And I'm not trying to say this just to get you to remain in a ministry. I'm trying to get you to remain for the rest of the duration of your life in your faith. Whether you serve in one voice, whether you come on a Monday, or whether God takes you to the ends of the earth, that you would not fall prey to abandoning your faith. You don't want fruit that is filled with GMOs and fake stuff. Because although it looks like it grows fast, it has no nutrients inside of it. And listen, check this out. Fast growth can produce results, but it never produces longevity. Is anyone with me this morning? Like, at all? Fast growth does not produce. It does not produce longevity. Have you ever met someone that like they got saved, they skyrocketed into leadership and then fell like a year or 2 years later? What happened to that guy? What happened to John Doe, you know? I don't know. He was here like, man, he was preaching, he was serving, like, what happened to that guy? Oh yeah, he killed someone, you know, like what? Like, escalated real quick, you know? John Doe needed some healing in his heart, right? Like, I can't tell you how many people got saved when I got saved in my youth group and how very few of them are still saved today. I even had a friend that called me one time or texted me one time. He's like, hey, I just want to tell you congratulations. And I'm like, thanks, man, for what? He goes, you made it. He goes, out of everyone that got saved in our group of kids, because there's like a group of kids that got saved at the same time in my church. He says, you're the one who made it. And he wasn't talking about one voice. He was talking about my faith. But I realized so long ago that I fell prey to going after this. Check this out. Fruit that has taken time in the deep soil of consistency and allows its roots to go deep, eventually sprouts up and bears fruit that could be trusted. You know, I heard this guy say this once, never trust someone who doesn't have chinks in their armor. Because someone who doesn't have chinks in their armor hasn't gone to war. Someone who hasn't gone, it's one thing to have a life that is like perfect and you say nothing goes on. It's another thing when you've had some pitfalls, because the Bible says the righteous fall 7 times, but they get back up. This is what separates those who are righteous from those who are not righteous. We choose to restand again and re-sign up again. It's not that you don't have moments of shortcomings or moments of failure. It's that in those moments of failure, you know who to run to. I can trust the fruit of my pastor, Pastor Nets Gomez, in the area of marriage. Not because he has good advice, not because he's read a ton of books, not because he's a marriage counselor, or because he has a radio program that has saved probably thousands of marriages. I can trust him because he's been married for 30 years. You know, they say you know what year they say people get divorced at? Who knows? If you know this, I'm going to be very surprised. What is it? 8. Year 8 is when they say most divorces take place. It used to be 7.5 years, and then it went to 8. I don't know why, but it did. They said because divorce process is longer now. So, yeah, so they're still at 7.5, but now it's longer. It takes longer to, right? They got rid of the cheaper to keeper concept, right? It's just like they just deal with it. They just get rid of it. 8 years. 8 years. You know, my pastor's been married 30 plus years, which means he has beat the statistic 4 times. Do you know there is an authority that comes when you beat the statistic constantly? Some of you in this room, the reason why your testimonies are powerful is you've defied and beat the statistic over your life. They said you should have been on the streets. They said because you had no father, you should have been this, and you should have been in prison, and you should have been in jail. And the way you grew up, you should be in a very different place on a Monday morning, but you're here. This is what you're developing. Even though you may feel small and weak, and when you put yourself up against other people, they may seem so much bigger, stronger, shinier, healthier than you, but you got to understand it's not what you see here, it's what's on the inside. It's what's on the inside. Man, this morning, more than anything, I want to instill this in your culture and in your DNA. And I'm preaching to myself this morning, okay? If I could be sitting there and here, I would do the same. I'm preaching to myself. I'm right there with you, okay? We buy into this lie that having quick fruit is the option and is the best thing. And when we buy into that lie, we actually look down upon the path of preparation. We hate preparation. Again, God doesn't prepare you in minutes, but years. He doesn't feed people seeds, he feeds them fruit. And for the fruit to actually become something people could eat, it takes time. Fruit that is picked prematurely can only make you sick. Have you ever eaten premature fruit? Anybody? Growing up, my great grandma had a plum tree. And we were always those kids that, oh, it's ready. It's all like, green, it's ready. We eat this premature fruit, and every time we would end up in the same position, stomach aches. Have you ever eaten premature fruit before? Because you just couldn't wait. Premature fruit will always produce stomach aches. Imagine the premature fruit you give to other people, what it produces in their life. Fruit that's eaten prematurely can only have the same result. And just because you have advice to give doesn't mean it's good, and it doesn't mean it's God. Just because you have something to say doesn't mean you should say it. That's why God gave you one mouth and two ears. I'm so thankful he only gave me one mouth, even though sometimes I act like I have two. I speak out of here sometimes. I'm sure some of you do too. My wife tells me. Just being honest with you. This is good. I feel like free, like I'm freeing myself right now. Like, just because we have something to say doesn't always mean it's the right time to say it. Really. Your age and experience doesn't qualify you to give advice. Check this out. How many of you ever had like an old man? Me and Tim were traveling in Brazil. We met this raunchy old man. Like, he was the raunchiest old man I've ever met in my life. Like, this guy had, like, every other word was a cuss word. And he was so raunchy, I think we were just like scared to preach the gospel. We're like, man, like, this guy's pretty, he was like, do you like Trump? And I'm like, what? Like, just random questions, and just like, hi, we're just like on a mission trip. You're a dunamis? He's like, what's that? Just this crazy dude. And he's like, yeah, you guys here for the girls? We're like, no, I'm preaching. And I just walk away. And then Tim's like, I don't even think Tim knew what to say. He's like, I just want to plant a farm. Just he walked away. Some random comment he made. And now this guy's old and he's gray, but his old and his grayness does not qualify him to speak any sort of advice into our lives at all. I guarantee if you look at this man, just because he's old and gray on the outside, he's probably filled with a ton of stuff on the inside that's not the best to give to people. None of your age nor your experience qualifies you. What qualifies you is your consistency in following God, regardless of what you've gone through. There was a thread in the Old Testament, if you look at it. Check this out. Fruit bearers have processes and preparation. These two P's. Fruit bearers, people that bear fruit in their life. Are you following me? Are you following me? People that bear fruit in their life have preparations and they have processes. You cannot escape this. If you want to bear fruit in your life that goes beyond ministry, okay, that goes beyond an Instagram post. I'm talking about real fruit. Like my dream, like when I look at my girls that are growing up, like that's going to be the ultimate test. Right now, they're pretty young. Right now, I can still impress them with this little cheap magic trick I do with the salt shaker and a napkin. And they think I'm the coolest dad on the earth. I drop the salt shaker down and I put the napkin, and I give it to my wife. Like, it's totally not a magic trick at all. What about when they're 15? That's going to be the test. How they love God. I could put them in every program. I could stick them in OV Kids. I could put them in Royal Rangers. I could put them in every single church program. Nothing is going to be able to shape the inside of them except when I live a life like this. And they're able to eat from the fruit of dad. That means when dad fails, dad gets on his knee and says, Daddy, sorry. That means when they're literally, like when there are these moments where, I didn't react or respond the right way. It's not a moment where you say, well, that's just who I am. It's a moment where you say, oh man, blew it there. Okay. Hey, I'm sorry. Man, honey, daddy wants to be a better daddy. How could I do that? I just took him on 2 daddy-daughter dates, one to Chuck E. Cheese and one to a donut shop. I'm spending time with my girls, realizing, oh my gosh, the fruit of what they're getting from my life. They're not here on a Monday morning. They don't care what I say on a Monday morning. They want to know, Dad, when can I play with the dog? They're not excited for the message, at all. And you look at the Old Testament, there's processes and preparations that the people who succeeded in the Bible, they didn't run from, they actually ran into their processes. I just found this out. Do you know that there's 10,000 species of birds? How many of you knew that? You knew that? Oh, I was like, dang. How many knew there's like 10,000 species of birds? Honey, that's a lot of birds. Y'all follow me? Y'all follow me? Check this out. No, I need you to stay with me here. Check this out. Do you know that only one species flies into storms and not away from them? Not chickens. Eagles. Eagles actually, I just found this out yesterday, they don't fly away from storms, they fly into storms because when there's a storm, the wind that's developed in a storm actually takes them higher. Most of our culture is so bred to run away from conflict. The moment someone calls something out in your life, all of a sudden, God, maybe the Lord's separating us, maybe we're just not called to run together anymore. Because you got called out on something? No, that's actually more of a friend than anyone else. I would encourage you when you get leaders that actually call stuff out in your life, run to those people even more. Because that is becoming more rare in today's culture. Everyone is patting you on the back saying, good job as you're on your way to hell. Good job, good job, good job, good job. Hell's gonna be full of good jobs, good jobs, good job. No. I love the fact that I get up with my pastor and I'm like, man, we're doing this and this. He's like, great, have you been praying much? I don't want to talk about that. Hold on, we're doing all this stuff. He's like, awesome, how's your time with God? No one asks that. Like when you find people in your life that actually care about you developing this and not just looking like this, man, get around those people. Don't run from them. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's not the funnest. I know we want to be around the fun people, the ones that don't say anything about you, the ones that always congratulate you. I know right? Aren't those people the funnest? Anybody here like disciplining anybody? I hate it. I hate it. You like Alan Rose is like I do. I hate discipline. Like right now I'm in this stage when the girls do something, I'm like, Marcella, help me. The dog, Marcella, help me. My nature is I don't like to discipline or tell anyone anything. Some of you are like, yeah, right. No, really, I don't. It takes every fiber in me to go up to you and to point anything wrong in your life. I want to be the cool dad all the time. Like you're the dad that buys the ice creams. I don't like mom, I want to be like, if I'm honest with you, that's my nature. But you know what? That's not doing anything for you. It's not. I don't want to congratulate you into sin and congratulate you into passivity where at the end of your life, you're this fat fruit that has nothing inside. Because you know who's going to answer to God for that? I am. Do you know why Eli's line ended? Because he refused to rebuke his sons. God said, okay, you won't correct your sons, then your line's done. Next. I don't want to be like that. You don't want to be like that. And I'm not saying you just rail on people all the time. Or you have it's called, I think it's Craig Groeschel says seagull leadership, where you live up here, you fly down, you crap on your people, then you fly back up. No, I'm not saying that at all. They never see you, and then the one day they see you, hey, you suck, you suck, back to Brazil. No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, man, that we would embrace truth. Eagles fly into storms because the wind of those storms takes them the heights that calm days can't. There is something that storms can take you through that calmness cannot take you through. And if you think that Jesus does not want to take you through storms, you're reading the wrong Bible. He so desires to take you through them, but that's the whole point, is he takes you through them. He doesn't abandon you in them.